What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got to talk about season 9 in general. I just want to give my overall feedback to the devs. Hopefully they're watching this video, and I'm curious to get your opinions in the comments as well. I know it's going to be a little bit of a touchy thing because there's some subjects here that some of the community really likes and some of them really don't, and that's honestly super indicative of how I feel about the overall, just the general feeling of season 9's update. So this is everything I love and everything I hate about season 9. Let's go. All right, unfortunately, the love list is a little bit shorter than the hate list, so we're going to go ahead and go with the love list first. I'm talking about all the things that I think are extremely positive for the game in season 9, and we're going to start off with the biggest one, the best feature by a mile that they've added to the game, and that is Track Forge. Track Forge is insanely good, and to be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to be this way. I actually have tested this thing multiple times throughout the last year. I just wasn't really impressed with the overall experience of building a track, racing others. It just wasn't hitting for me. However, with this beta implementation that they have here in season 9, the Track Forge is really good. It's addicting. I want to play all these new tracks. I want to test you guys' tracks. I want to create my own. I want to spend the time to sit there and make a track. And I know people that are sweats of this game that did not expect to find themselves doing this, and they are making tracks. This is really, really good for the community and really good for the game overall. And it couldn't have come at a better time because this is very early on in the game's life cycle. We expect to see Motorfest for another maybe 2-3 years. So to have it early on in the game like this, it just means they have lots of time to build upon that and, add different kits or different decorations, different props, that sort of thing. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But right now, this is the absolute peak of season 9 is Track Forge. I'm very excited about that. But the next thing on my list is the Street 1 rebalances. They did a bunch of rebalances for some cars in Street 1, mostly Mazdas, but they also nerfed the Porsche 911 2.7. That car needed it. It was the only car that had the top speed that it had. There were no other cars in the class that could keep up with it, and it made it the default pick for literally everyone on every single course, with the exception of a very, very technical route, which we could use the Mach E on. But with that said, it was the appropriate nerf. They didn't kill the car. The car still feels like the same car. It's got good power. It's got good acceleration, and it's probably still a top 3 car in the class, but it's just not completely dominant in Street 1, which is exactly what the class needed. That class is now wide open. There's a bunch of different cars you can use. There's the MX-5, there's the GTI, both the GTIs in fact, there's the Porsche, there's the Mazda RX-7 10th anniversary. There's a bunch of different cars you can use, and depending on the route, there might be a different choice that you choose. So I really appreciate that rebalance. I think that was the perfect thing to do. They absolutely nailed it with the Street 1 rebalances. And speaking of other rebalances, they nerfed the T50S, and to be honest with you, it kind of feels the same. It's got a little bit less lateral G, so it doesn't take turns quite as fast as it used to. It is slower than it used to be, but that's opened the door for a couple of other cars, especially like the Camaro SS or maybe the F40s. But I still think the T50 is a strong car. It's probably a top 5 car still, maybe top 3, but it's not a car that's completely overpowered. This nerf was necessary because the car was good in every situation, and it was definitely the default pick for literally every racing section on the map, with the exception of maybe highway routes. You would use a different one if it was a straight highway. You'd use a Lamborghini, but this was 100% necessary, and they absolutely nailed it with that as well. It sucks that the car doesn't feel as good to drive, and we are going to be going slower in racing, but I think that class really needed it. All right, the next thing I really love is that the Summit contest will now feature Track Forge events. If you notice down here on the bottom right, this is a Track Forge created events that is in the Summit for competition. I absolutely love this. I think this is awesome. This one happens to be from the devs. I think I heard that basically all season we're going to see some dev tracks, but starting in the next season, we possibly could see tracks created by the community. That is phenomenal. I really appreciate the opportunity to make a track that then gets featured in the game in the Summit contest. That's absolutely awesome. It says your name right there. It says who created it. I love that. It's so cool, and I really want to see more of this. In fact, you could just get rid of the feats and just put all Track Forge tracks at the bottom. If you ask me, that's the way to go. So IVT, please do that, because the feats are absolutely pointless. They're just checklist items that are boring. So all Track Forge at the bottom, all IVT created events at the top. That'd be really awesome. And unfortunately, the last thing on my love list is the slipstream indicator. And I want to take you to the game settings because this is important. This is going to lead me straight into my hates. The slipstream indicator actually is awesome that we can see when we're in slipstream. We needed this. We need the feedback. You really couldn't tell before this update if you were actually in slipstream or not, and now you can because of the little trails, little air trails that you can see coming off your car. Now there's also a sound that plays along with this, and that's where I'm going to be getting into my hates. I hate that sound. It's terrible. The nice thing is though, I love that you can actually turn it off, which is why I'm in the settings here. Player vehicle slipstream, turn it off. It's horrible. It's just a whistle. It's a constant whistle when you're in slipstream, and it's the worst when you're in the NASCAR playlist because you're doing a lot of slipstreaming there, and it's really bad in grand races as well because you're doing a lot of slipstreaming there. So that sound, horrible, on my hate list. Let's move into the hate list. All right, this is where the community gets divided, and please don't kill me in the comments. Just respect the opinion. I'm going to give you just my full breakdown on why I think the Agera should not have been nerfed, and then you guys can go ahead and, you know, yap at me and tell me that I'm stupid and wrong. The Agera was very good in Hyper, let's be honest. It was a very good car. It was the best car on probably 80% of the routes. That's a lot of routes, and one could argue that the car was OP. But the fact that they nerfed it is sort of a slap in the face to all the players that spent the time to learn the car. If you don't know the car, you didn't drive the car, this was the most difficult car to learn in the game, by far. It was the most difficult car. It was the hardest car to drive, but because it was hard to drive, it gave you insane benefits when it came to pace. So it was sort of a high risk, high reward car. If you could drive it well, you could gain extra pace. If you couldn't drive it well, there were a lot of other cars that you were going to be faster in than this one. That alone means it's not overpowered. It did not need a nerf. The reason this car got nerfed, my guess, is because it was being used by the majority of the players. So they wanted to switch up the meta. They didn't want people using the car anymore, and so they decided to go ahead and nerf it. I mean, the truth is it should have been nerfed in the first month or the first couple of months when people figured out that it was the only car that drives like this. If they had done that, I don't think the community would have been as upset. I mean, I think we would have just moved on. A new meta would have formed early, and we wouldn't have had a problem. But my second point with why this doesn't need to be nerfed is because we actually need high skill cars in the game. When you nerf the Agera, you're basically getting rid of the skill ceiling. You're closing the skill gap between the casual and the more competitive player, the high skilled and the low skilled. You are just closing that gap, and you're closing it sort of artificially because you're capping that high skill player. You're just taking that person and saying, I know you can drive this fast, but we're not going to allow you to do that. You can only drive this fast now. And that's super frustrating, especially when we've been given the chance to drive that fast since the beginning of the game, which is 2.5 years ago. It's a very important turning point for the game and the overall direction of the game. They have made it very clear. This is not a competitive game. They are not making features for competitive fast racers. They're making features for a casual audience, and they are trying to gather more and more casual audience. They're trying to make the game easier to play. Whether it's intentional or not, every single feature, everything that they choose to do and not do, it all has amounted to a more casual game. There's probably only one feature that I can point to out of all of the things they've added to the game over the last 2.5 years that makes the game more competitive, and that was direct mode. They gave us the ability to go fast if we had the skill to do that. But that to me is no different than having a high skill car like the Agera. You give us the ability to go fast if we have the skill to go fast. That's how it should be. There should be a high skill ceiling, and if people choose to spend the time to climb that ladder to get to that high skill ceiling, you should be rewarded with pace. And now you aren't. This car is completely dead, basically. Anybody can drive it now because the car doesn't slide very much. It's very controllable now in low speed corners, but they completely killed the lateral G. So anyways, the point is, I want you guys to know, for all the casuals out there, they're like, yeah, the Agera should have been nerfed. You're right, but it should have been nerfed 2 months after the game came out, not 2.5 years. And to be honest, it's the biggest slap in the face for everyone who's decided to learn this car and has decided to become good at the Crew Motorfest. Now, the last thing I want to say about this, there's a lot of you out there that have said like, good, I'm glad it's nerfed. F the sweats, all this stuff. Like, you're making it an argument of casual versus sweat, but it really shouldn't matter. The car you choose to drive is your decision. There's no sweats out there telling casuals what to drive or what not to drive, whether they should be doing this or should be doing that. We're just driving the cars that we want. That's it. There's a lot of people that are, I'm tired of seeing the same cars. I don't want to see this anymore. Like, it's not really up to you what cars other people drive. You don't really get to have a choice. And now that the Agera is nerfed, you're just going to see the spam of whatever else is the next fastest car. So this argument of like it should be nerfed because I'm tired of seeing it is just completely baseless. It's stupid, it's silly, and you're gonna see the same cars because the people that want to go fast are gonna want to go fast. They just want to drive the car that's the fastest because their idea of fun is not switching up the car every single time they race. Their idea of fun is actually winning or being competitive with the people of their own skill levels. They're going to pick the car that's the fastest no matter what the scenario is. And so you're still going to see the same cars. It's only about going fast. It has nothing to do with the cars. It's about racing. It's about being competitive. It's about going the fastest you possibly can with the tools that you have available to you. That's it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it's called. Just about going fast. And that's what the competitive scene is looking at. Anyway, I've talked too much on this subject. Let's get back to the list. Let's talk about the grand races in general, because this is another place where I do need to complain. The ranked grand races really saw no major updates. Like, it's basically the same as it was when we left. And I'm very frustrated with this because this was supposed to be a huge competitive feature that we were getting as of season 8, and it just is the same. I'm just disappointed that they decided not to make this a priority going forward. And to be honest with you, it seems like they're just going to kind of leave it alone. I really hope they don't. I hope they implement new things and new changes to this, but my guess is they're just going to move on to the next piece of content that they need to put out in season 10. And that means we're kind of stuck with whatever this is. And to be honest, this is not really a rank system. This is more of like an XP grind essentially. And it's an XP grind for kind of terrible rewards. I mean, these rewards are not very good. You've got a racing suit in silver and then a random rim that's iridescent. And then you have a racing suit for platinum, which just includes the helmet, I guess. And then you have a Speedway Ghost unique title that's not even really unique because everyone can get it anyway. These are just terrible rewards. Also, if this is like a competitive feature for players that are competitive and people who play the game a lot, then why are we getting rewarded any currencies? Like, we have all of the currencies. We have tons of prestige. We don't need prestige tickets. We're getting top times in the summit anyway. We don't need 100,000 XP. We're already like super max level with a ton of legend points. We don't need bucks. We don't need legend points. This is all stuff that we don't need. Now, obviously, for the casual who doesn't play that much, this might be an incentive to play, but this is all stuff we don't need, and it's kind of, you know, BS cosmetic rewards and a title. Like, this is just super low effort in my opinion. And IBT, I don't want you to feel like attacked on this, but like, this is just not good enough. Like, it's really not good enough. This is the one feature that everyone comes back to all the time to play, and there's really no incentive to do so. I was very hopeful in season 8 that this would become like sort of the incentive to come out and play grand races. And if I had to guess, it probably increased the numbers a little bit for people who play grand races regularly, but it didn't help the people at the top of the list. It helped the people at the bottom of the list. Like, it brought a few more casuals into the game. So anyways, I don't know. I'm just kind of disappointed overall in grand races. I'm pretty sad that they decided to just basically leave it the same. I think there might be some changes to like how many points you need to get to each level or whatever, but you know, it really doesn't matter at this point. The races are basically the same. Anyways, let's move on. There's a couple things I really don't like, and one of them is the NASCAR playlist. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't hate this, okay? I'm separating things in love and hate because that's the whole video, but basically I don't hate it, but I really don't like it either. Like, I'm not a huge NASCAR guy. I'm not a fan of the sport. It's not that I hate it. I understand why people like it, but it's just not my thing, if that makes sense. So take everything that I'm saying right now with a grain of salt. The one thing I don't like is that the races feel a little bit boring, and I really don't know what IBT could have done differently to make them not feel boring, because NASCAR to me is just boring. You're driving in a circle in a game. It's not that exciting. Now, if you're into the sport, you love it, obviously you're going to be excited about this and it's going to feel exciting to play. So I don't want to take that excitement away from you guys. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean you guys don't have to either. I'm not that type of guy. I just personally don't find it that entertaining. So for me, NASCAR was a miss. I don't really like it. It's just fine. The races are boring. The physics kind of frustrate me. The AI are kind of all over the place. The crashes are just annoying to deal with. And then the slipstream mechanics come in and they completely ruin this summit, by the way. The slipstream mechanics completely ruined this summit this week because you have to have a slipstream partner if you want to compete. and that's super annoying. Like, I did everything solo. I'm in the top, I think 200, or I'm right around 200 rank. I just don't have any desire to go back and try to like improve my scores again, because I know I can't get any farther unless I have a slipstream partner. That's annoying. So just overall for me, it was just a little bit of a miss. Now, the other thing I hate actually is that they made all the NASCAR liveries paid. You can't get any of the NASCAR like drive. If you're a fan of the sport, you really like this, you have to pay actual real money for all of this stuff, and I think that's kind of not good. Now, I'm sure this partnership costs a lot to bring into the game. I'm sure there was a big investment here, but to be honest with you, having these paid and not having them in the year 3 pass is sort of crazy. Like, this is an additional like paid vehicles pack. You have to buy these for like $17 or $18 to have all of these NASCAR liveries, and they're just liveries. There's no like any real advantage to it, which it had to be that way. It would be an even bigger miss if they had performance advantages, because then it would be pay to win. So I'm glad that they don't have any performance advantages. But for people that are like considering buying this, you have to buy these liveries, and you also have to buy the year 3 pass if you want to get the RC car playlist. And so because of that, it just feels like a miss to me. Like, it just feels like sort of greedy. Like, you didn't have to make these paid. Maybe they did though. Maybe this partnership cost a lot of money and they had to get some of that money back by making people buy these liveries. But this was kind of the whole draw for the, you know, the NASCAR stuff, is like the NASCAR fans are going to want to drive their favorite, you know, driver's car or whatever. I don't know. It just feels weird. I just don't think this is a good one. It's a complete miss for me. And finally, on the NASCAR stuff, I feel like the rivals events are just way too similar to each other. Literally every rival event in here, there's 11 of them, and they're all just actionless. And it's just such a boring game mode to do the actionless. Now, if you're gonna grind like parts and money and stuff like that, there's some good parts and money methods here. But besides that, they all feel the same. It's just like hit the target, go through the precision, do a drift, drive, you know, 124 miles an hour for 10 seconds, or drive without hitting anything for 10 seconds. It feels so boring, man. It's just not fun at all. And there's 11 of them to grind. So it's just one of those things that just isn't, you know, it just feels like a miss for me. I hate it. All right, lastly, let's talk about one thing I hate from the Track Forge. So the Track Forge is great overall, don't get me wrong. But what I hate about the Track Forge is the rewards. So I'm not talking about the rewards for creating tracks. Those are fine. They're just titles. It's great. It's based on likes. It's titles. It's fine. But I'm talking about the actual rewards, the actual money that you make. The world record on this event is 4 minutes and 31 seconds, but you only make 22,500. That's terrible. Literally terrible. It's probably the worst way to make money in the entire game, is to do Track Forge events. Now, obviously, the draw for Track Forge is, you know, experiencing something new, or, you know, trying out something that someone else made, and the rewards are sort of like an afterthought when you do Track Forge. Nobody is grinding Track Forge in order to get money, but that's because you can't. Like, you can't. It's impossible to actually get a bunch of money from Track Forge, because the amount of money you're getting is based on when you finish the event. And it's just a horrible formula. Like, it's not even close to the biggest money methods. It's not even like midway. It's not even in the middle. Like, I know that they were trying to avoid people doing like a super short, like one track piece and then a finish line and like a 3-second race, and then they just grind that over and over again in order to get money. I know they didn't want that, so they wanted to disincentivize probably people going into Track Forge to get money because of what we could create and, you know, what we could do. So I understand why the rewards are a little bit less, but then, you know, maybe just base it off of the finish time and boost it up a little bit. Make it to where, like, I don't know, maybe like $1 million an hour or something like that. Like, it's just, yeah, it's off. It's off. Anyways, that's the end of my list, and I really hope I haven't offended anybody. I know just because I don't like it doesn't mean you guys don't have to like it. It's just some feedback I wanted to make sure that everybody saw, and I'm curious what your experience has been with season 9, so please leave that in the comments. I do want to hear about it, and I will be reading through, so I appreciate you guys watching this video. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.